Hey, you are along for the ride with Mad Dog and Cole. I'm not thick, you're thick. Pharaoh.
Go-karts are like Formula One for little people.
I decided to fly through the air and live in the sunlight and enjoy life as much as I could, and that's just what I'm doing.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm. Wait.
Oh man, here we are at episode 17. I'm telling you, if you haven't listened to 16 with Jim Beaver, please give it a listen. It's a great listen. I want to take a real quick second, thank our partners at Along for the Ride, Kicker Performance Audio. Find them at kicker.com for all your automotive, motorcycle, boat, V twin, off road, and personal audio needs. Kicker.com. Bomber Floating Eyewear, bombereyewear.com. Man, these things are just beast, and I'll tell you more about them here during the podcast. But I just love these Mono series I'm wearing. Um, man, polarized lenses, OSHA certified safety lenses. Man, and they float. Bombereyewear.com. So I think before we get into the real meat and potatoes of this episode, I want to just take a minute. Man, yesterday was a tragic day, you know. Um, my good friend and someone I definitely look up to, Greg, aka Big Red Cowboy Hat, Cozzo, also known as Greg Smile Wake Maker, passed yesterday, shockingly and unexpectedly. Um, I I'm just gutted, dude. I don't know what to say. Uh, Greg on his profile, and the man lived it, was dropping smiles like raindrops. And dude, he lived it every day. He did so much for so many. And those of you who don't know who he is, he was a voice, live announcer for the Lucas Oil Off Road Series for years. He also did some NHRA, monster trucks, uh, just so many things. He was very tight. A lot of stuff for Mav TV, and just unbelievable resume with Lucas Oil Motorsports. Um, I know a lot of racers now that grew up hearing him call their name, all over the country and all over Southern California with the Lucas Oil Off Road Series. So, Greg, man, I know you'd be pissed if you knew I wasn't smiling right now. So, I want to say thank you, and man, respect. You will be missed immensely.
He was such an icon, especially in the short course world. That's how I saw Greg, and it was, I never knew him personally, um, but it's weird to think for me of any short course racing to move on without him. And like you said, he had such a good relationship with everything Lucas Oil, drag racing, and yeah, it's you in today's social media world, the nice thing about it is you realize how many lives he touched, because that's all my feed's been the last 24 hours is pictures of Greg with every racer. So yeah, thoughts and prayers with the family, man.
Absolutely. thoughts and prayers to the family, all Greg's friends. Everybody was Greg's friend. Thank you to those that have reached out to me today. Really grateful. Yeah, Greg and I used to send each other hashtags just randomly. And the three most popular that we settled on were be the smile, be the example, be the positive. Uh, that started back in 2020 when it was such a dark time for all of us. And one day he just called me up, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Man, it's tough." And we had a good talk, and we had a bit of a cry, and it's yeah, and just blessed to know him. So it's going to be hard to move on with the rest of the show. Uh, and I apologize for such a somber start, but props and respect, Greg. Race in peace. I'll see you soon. I'm grateful to know that you're up there looking over me and reminding me to drop a smile like raindrops every day.
Now he's announcing the races in heaven, you know?
Amen. Amen. So that's kind of a good segue. I hate to just jump off of that, but it's a good segue for the races last weekend. Um, I believe you were out in the desert, weren't you?
I was not even too far away from you.
Yeah.
I was probably 15 minutes away from you.
Yeah, I was in Glamis for the second annual Red Bull Sand Scramble. Cole, you were in.
I was in Superstition for the AMA
Yes.
District 38 Christmas Classic.
Awesome.
So we were separated by about 3 or 4 farms and a restaurant, and that's yeah.
Yeah, and you were actually crew chiefing, weren't you?
I was, yep. I was lucky enough to have Jake bring me back on for another round. So yeah, it was absolutely epic day. But I say we get right into the sand scramble because that's what I want to hear about first.
Awesome. Well, before we go there, Jake, you're a dummy if you don't keep bringing him on because this kid knows a hell of a lot and he can help you get to that podium and stay on that podium. So, yeah, man, let's get on the sand scramble, dude. I mean, one, it has grown. Holy cow, has it grown, dude?
Really,
Unbelievable. Yeah. I don't even know the count of racers. Last I heard, it was well over 100, which they capped it at 100 last year.
wow.
Um, yeah, it was nuts. And of course, I went in again as the activation company for Red Bull, um, called States and Kingdom. And shout out to my boys, Tess, Eric, and the crew. Appreciate you guys so much. And thanks for bringing me in. It's such a blast. Um, you know, I got out there Wednesday. So I went in on the capacity of basically vehicle loaner and rental vehicle fleet manager for the ops crews and the USAC and safety crews. Um, USAC does the scoring and timing, the official capacities of the race itself,
So,
race
sorry, are
control.
they in charge of safety as well, like tech inspection and everything?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. That was one of my questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and funny, my good friend, Brian Bennett of Long Travel Industries and long time friend of mine and long time Kawasaki advocate. And Brian very well
Yep.
also, um, actually serves with USAC and was a tech inspector for this race as well as working with race operations during the race. So it was really rad. but yeah, I was vehicle fleet management, basically just kind of coordinating all that, making sure the right people got the right cars, side by sides they needed. Um, and then kind of base camp operations, if you will. And then the majority of my job, I was the head of security for the whole event, for the whole operation. So it was, it's same as last year. And excuse me, it's there's a lot going on all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I rolled out. There's a lot of things you don't think about, that when you're at an event that just kind of happen. Um, and we'll get into some of that, but there's a lot of people working in the background to keep that feeling that things just happen, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, so I rolled out a Havasu here at like early Wednesday morning, got over to Glamis. It's not a real long run, about 2.5 to 3 hours. I think it was pushing about 3 hours. Um, got there, immediately got to work, figuring out um, what was going to be the layout, what was going to be, needed done, what equipment was coming in when, because as security, that's something you have to check in. Um, and just I bypass this part, but they permit the use of the majority of Osborne.
You're answering all my questions. Dang it. All right. Well, which is good, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
so
was going to ask. I mean, you're in the height of the season at Glamis. How do you kick people out or reserve a spot without getting that spot?
yeah, yeah. So
Permit wise.
they work very, very closely. Eric and the crew worked very, very closely with BLM to secure all but basically 2 lanes of traffic and a turnaround up at Osborne Lookout. So um, it it definitely gives us some space to work with. Um, we could use it all, to be honest.
Right. Yeah.
It's grown so much, but you got to work with BLM and those guys. They are absolutely fantastic to work with. Um, Department that we had out there, the whole bit. Just great to work with, good guys. Um, so yeah, I got there Wednesday and started surveying the situation, got to work and doing what I could do and starting to get so we had what do we have? 9 loaner cars. I believe it was 9 loaner cars from Polaris. Had some Pro 4s, or Pro R's,
Yeah.
sorry, that were Pro R4s, however you want to say it. Pretty impressive cars. I got to take a little stint in one. And then we did have also 6 rental cars from the 6 rental razors from the rental place there in Glamis also.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so all those vehicles needed to be flagged, um, and they all also had to have our Red Bull Sand Scramble official flag on it. Um, so, they're just doing that, getting things lined out, kind of getting a plan for the foot of how we're going to set things up, coordinating with Super Mario, Mario, yeah, Mario from Red Bull drives a big toter. I cannot pronounce his last name. Don't even try.
Wouldn't
Um,
bother.
yeah, no, I'd mess it up so bad. He'd kill me. But such a rad dude. Always great to work with him. Um, and he was a huge help. And so, yeah, we just, started kind of getting things laid out, and S&K brings their own. Last year we had a enclosed trailer. This year they had a big, big enclosed truck, like 26 foot,
Oh wow.
um, extra height, which was really cool. And their guy, Eric Snow, AKA Snowman, um, sets up the boneyard and facilitates out of the boneyard for the branding and all this stuff. So, there's just right off the get go, man, there's a lot of action going, a lot of things happening. And so we moved from Wednesday to Thursday. All the ops crew was there Thursday, ops being operations, um, that do the track setup, track build. You've got to be thinking, how do they do a track in Glamis?
Right.
Um, Basically, what they do is they lay it out on a satellite overview of where they want to put the pylons, which are much like the pylons they use in the Red Bull air races, big inflatable cones, basically.
Yeah, they look real similar. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, real similar. So they figure out where they're going to have all those, and then they go to on site and verify that that is going to work indeed. Um, and so those guys got to work and haul them like bike fence out into the dunes to set up the start for the start gates. um and just every pylon requires a generator. So they're hauling generators and pylon kits out, and just Thursday basically they just set up. They didn't get to the pylons and generators and stuff Thursday. Uh, but Thursday they got most of the course marked out. And they use what they called, the official term is delineators. Um, what I call them is anorexic over tall traffic cones. Those are really skinny, tall traffic cones that you see at construction sites with the reflective tape on them. And they lay a lot of the course out with that, just to be within a certain boundary. The course is 100% unique in the way they do it, because when you go from dune to dune, or maybe over a dune to the next dune, um, man, there could be 100 different lines.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's such a unique kind of racing because it's so many pylons set up, and it's like your job to figure out how to navigate your lap each time.
Right. How to get to the pylon and get to it on the right side to make the proper turn, which they do have arrows at the pylon just to remind you. They also have numbers on the pylons to remind you what corner you're at. Um, but man, gnarly, just gnarly, like literally. uh I'll go through the track setup in a little bit here, but yeah, Thursday, started laying out perimeter of base camp, VIP area, and securing all that. um Use a company out of El Centro for security guards, and they provide a supervisor and 5 security guards, uh, that I have to keep track of and keep in their right positions and make sure that they're doing and keeping eyes on where they should. Um, and dude, we just Saturday or Thursday was just work, and then Friday, again, just go after it and dig and work, and they start laying the cones out, pylons, I mean, and generators. And so we have additional guards that come in uh, at noon. And so those guards all have to be taken to a pylon, and they will be there until their shift ends at midnight.
Oh wow.
And the new guard takes over at midnight and will be there till basically just before the race starts. So, um, there's some logistics involved, and Super Mario's son Andrew, who's just a beast. Shout out Drew. Um, he's, I think, maybe what is he, like 20 years old? Um, been running the dunes since he could sit in a car seat, basically, with his pop, and they he basically was my right hand and my transporter out there. So he was a huge asset to me, and they used Mario's Gem One, very very early Gem One Funko rail.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super rad. And I can't remember. I think he said it had a 2180 or something like that in it.
Okay.
So it's got, he's got drag carbs on it and super trap, but it's still very, it's well kept up, but it's very vintage looking,
That's cool. Okay.
right down to the square Dick CPAC lights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's all
Yeah.
age appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got like the small Dixie picks up front, and then up by the dash crossbar, it's got the big, I don't know what they were, 5 inch or 6 inch Dixie pick, oblong, lights. And so super, super cool rig, man. Super cool. And Andrew's way overqualified to be um, driving security guards out into the dunes. But I knew I could trust him, and I knew of his skill level. So he was just a monster help, dude. Red Bull help, I should say. Um,
Yeah, there you
so
go. I
yeah,
caught
yeah,
that.
yeah. Got to be careful there. Um, so yeah, we started getting guys out and girls out to their stations, and making sure they, you know, obviously had their coats, had their blankets, had their chairs, had their lunches. And one guy that forgot his lunch that we had to run back in, and so he could get his lunch. His car was locked and he had the keys. So, um, but yeah, man, Friday, the ops team just slays it all day, just ripping dunes and getting things set up and adapting to the conditions and situations. And man, by they basically run all the pylons at once, so you can get a visual of all the journey, of how the course looks in the daylight. And then, of course, come about sunset, they deflate them, and the guards are there, until that particular shift. They're there till midnight. So just out there with their generator, and we had some tripod lights, solar tripod lights that were supposed to be good for 16 hours.
Okay.
Ended up good for about 14.
Oh, okay. I thought
So,
you were going to
which
say
was,
about an hour.
yeah, no, it actually worked out good. They only came up maybe some of them came up maybe an hour short of when we were going to pull the guards out of the dunes. So, um, it's we had a couple that we had to swap out and rotate due to some health issues and et cetera like that. But for the most part, everything worked out, and it was, you know, just trying to stay sharp and stay on point and getting ready for the switch out, which we got all prepped. It was funny because um, some of those guys aren't small.
Right.
And so Andrew did hit a spot where he kind of G'd out the back of the rail due to the extra weight. And keep in mind, this thing's on like, I think it's on nitrogen shocks with airbags. Um, so there was some weight in there. Just saying. He
Some
G'd it
beef.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. and it stirred up a little bit of sand either in the fuel filter or in the float bowls. I guess it's not an uncommon thing. So between getting all the guys out and then having to deal with running back out there at 8 for a situation and then getting back prior to 11:30, um, he literally pulled the carbs apart and cleaned the carbs and cleaned the jets and put it all back together, um, which was pretty rad, you know. And of course, that night also, Red Bull hosted drive not only the drivers meeting up there, but they also fed them all.
Oh
So
wow.
they, yeah, they had a caterer come in, one of the local taco trucks, and those guys came in and just killed it. The food was fantastic, and so Red Bull fed everybody, all the drivers, um, and they're supposed to be drivers and their family. I think it ended up being drivers and crew and their family.
Okay.
Um, Nonetheless, there's plenty of food. It was really good. Uh, Dude, it was a good time, and it was rad to be able to see like so many of my friends. I have so many friends in side by side racing and industry, and it was just cool to see everybody. At one point, I was carrying a pallet with one of the guys over because the media trailers that were set up, they were rental trailers set up as home base for all the media, film, drone, and camera crews, kind of to work out of. One of them had a double step, but it should have had a triple step.
Okay.
And so I had to carry a pallet over there because I didn't want anybody to fall and break their head.
Good call.
So I go around the corner, I'm telling these camera people, hey, I'm coming through this gate and making a left, clear the way, coming in hot. And as we round the corner, I hear this voice back behind me going, get some, old man. And I'm like, I know that voice. And so as soon as I got the pallet set, of course, I had to run back over and give my boy Seth Quintero a
Nice.
giant hug, and we actually got to visit. It's it's so funny because he's now a record-setting Dakar racer. He won more stages in a Dakar than anyone at what, 19, I think.
Yeah, it was under 20.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's also the youngest like stage winner
Yep.
ever, and just a beast in Dakar. Um, and I started sponsor when I was with Muzzy. I started sponsoring Seth, I believe, in 2014 when he
Wow.
was, I think he was 10, and he was running a Razor 170, and then 15 at UTV Worlds, which used to be really early, like February in 2015, he got me, wait, 14 maybe, might have been 14. Whenever the very first UTV World Championships
Okay.
was, I can't remember if it's 14 or 15, but he was my first sponsored athlete um, to win a UTV World Championship because they ran the Razor 170 race first,
Badass.
and he won it. And that day turned into just a chest beater day for me. Where Muzzy athletes took, I think 9 of the 12 available podium spots in the big 4 races. So, and Seth Quintero set the bar on that, and I I just love that kid. And, to me, he'll always be low man 103, um, but he's taller than me now. And he's a multiple stage Dakar winner and record setter. Um, but, he's still the same kid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't changed. And man, I just appreciate that about him so much. Um, he's just my boy, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to visit with him some, and a little later, I got to see another Red Bull athlete and another kid, if you will, that I worked with from the time she was tiny, Mia Chapman.
Oh, cool.
And so, I know she's been doing and getting ready for some of the, was it Nitro Rallycross, I believe?
Hmm.
Yeah, in the side by side class. Um, and she jumped in, I think this last year, she jumped in like I think last year she jumped in like a Pro 2 or Pro 4. Um, Out at Crandon in the big house with no experience really in one of those kind of rigs, some practice laps, and went out with all the big dogs and finished fourth, I believe it was.
That's
So,
so crazy.
yeah, and you meet her and she's this, little to me, this little girl, still this little girl. And man, she's got a lot of talent, and so, yeah, now it was just great to see. I got to see Chris Leeming. Um, there's so many of the racers. My good friends from Julie Moore from Dirt and Dunes Photography up in Oregon, and Brandon, her husband, Gray Air KTM were there. I got to see the Cuskinator. Um, which was, so rad to see him and spend some time with him. It had been far too long. We definitely got to get him on here at some point soon.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he would find the time limit, that's for sure.
yes, yeah, for sure, without a doubt, without a doubt. So, but yeah, man, it was rad. Friday was great, and then as that crowd kind of left and everybody went to get some sleep because sight lap sportsman class sight lap was at 7 a.m.,
Oh wow.
which is cold
Nice.
and dark,
Yeah.
almost dark still in Glamis, by the way. So um knowing, I had a lot of stuff to handle, and so um I didn't even attempt to go to bed because I knew we had the switch out. So we got things lined out. A couple of the guards showed up early, so we were able to load them up in Andrew's car, Mario's car. Sorry, Mario, with Andrew driving, um, and he was able to get them out and switched out, um, and we were able to kind of make plans as we were doing that for the morning. On who we needed. There were some guards that had to get off at a specific time. So we were able to make plans of it was really cool. It was like kind of a tactical strategic game, if you will. Okay, this guy needs to get off, so we're going to put him here. And because the guy that doesn't have to get off as soon is, whatever,
Way out at
within,
pylon, whatever.
yeah, or within sight distance of the guy that needs to get off first in the morning. So you've always got coverage until they're all
Oh,
out,
good point.
right?
Okay, yep.
So yeah, that was kind of cool. And dude, it was so rad to like be able to, I mean, like be able to sit there and watch Andrew pick his way through the dunes, knowing like he's got 300 pounders in the car or whatever, um, not saying anything, just saying, that, and the dude was efficient. He was careful. He was safe. Um, he made sure all of them were strapped into the belts before he even left.
Good.
Just super responsible. Um, and it was fun to stand there right up at the point of the lookout of Osborne and watch him pick his way through the dunes. Cause there's some stuff, with a load like that, there's some stuff that buggy probably wouldn't climb, or he didn't want to work it that hard to climb. So, there would be times where you would see him like basically run a complete bowl, like corkscrew a bowl to get up to a ridge.
Yeah,
And
that's smart driving.
yeah,
It's
really.
not like being in some racer engineering twin turbo big block car where you point at everything. It's like you got to be a little mathematical about your procedure.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, you don't want to scare these guys. You don't
Yeah.
want them thrown up in your rail. You don't, you need them to be healthy and good all night. So,
Yeah, the rail's
and
a tool. It's not
exactly.
a fun Mr. Toad's Wild Ride for these guys.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, as you all know, you've been out to Glamis at night. Um, if you just point and shoot, it usually doesn't end well.
No, you don't know what's on the other side.
Exactly. So, um, dude did a stellar job. Um, we started just before midnight. We swapped 8 guards out, and we had swapped one just after 6. It was there till 6 in the morning. So we only had to swap out 8. And we swapped 8 out in an hour and 10 minutes.
Wow, nice.
So, and that's bringing back, and we had to wait for a couple to get there that were late. So, I felt that was relatively efficient. Um, at that point, when he got back with the last switch out load, we just double checked, make sure everybody was okay, through contacting every guard. Um, code 4 is the words you want to hear, which is everything's good. So we had all 9 at code 4. I sent Andrew to bed because I knew we had to start pulling those guys at 5:55 in the morning, which ended up, we pushed out till 6:10.
Okay.
Um, just because some of the areas the pylons weren't inflated yet, or we didn't have a ops crew out there quite yet. Because you got to keep in mind, these guys have to go through every station, fill the generator, the ops crew in the morning before they can even run, before the ops team can run test laps.
Right, right.
So, yeah, so I knew going into it was going to be a short night. Um, and after dealing with one little situation, which not was so minor, it's just mostly time. Um, I think I finally crawled into bed about 2:30 Saturday morning. Um, and my alarm went off at 4:45 for the
Nice.
5 a.m. call, and or 5:30 call, and I was able to get up and um, get washed up and shaved and put some pretty smell on for the day, and got ready to hit it. And man, we swapped all the guards out in the morning, pulled them all back in, I should say. Um, and at that point, um, it was almost go time, for the sight lap to start. um, Something I gotta say, my boy Pete from Pro Armor volunteered to come out and help, and in the ops team and the build team, and it was so rad to spend time with him and just work with him, and see him shred out there on the test lap. The crew, where the ops crew ran basically a track clearing lap, if you will. And
Okay.
then,
Yep.
yeah, it was just rad, it was super cool. And so, dude, we got at that point, let me see, I'm on my regular operations radio. Um, on this side with the mic clipped to my shirt. If you see any pictures from there, from Sand Scramble 2022 with me, you'll probably wonder, why is he wearing a V-neck shirt? And I'm really not. That's just my mic clipped to my shirt and weighing it down. Um, you got to do what you got to do, you know?
Uh-huh. Got to keep your hands free. They got to be
Yeah.
working.
Yep. And so then in my left pocket, I had a radio that was direct to security. Um, and I also had a radio. I mean, they were clipped on my left side, I should say. I also had a radio that was race operations radio. Um, so I could keep track of what was going on and be ready if somebody needed something or had a security situation. So, at that point you switch from like transporter to security, parking monitor because you're not allowed to park up there. Um, and or general public isn't, and they're able, however, like side by sides and Jeeps and rails and whatever, you can park in the sand all you want. You just can't pull up and park on the pavement because that area is reserved and basically closed for that day. Although we do maintain a lane each way for safety and a turnaround, and that's for fire per fire and for ambulance and safety purposes.
Yeah, I got to think ahead on this stuff.
Yeah, you really do because other people won't think at all.
I think that's the Glamis motto.
It seems to be often for sure. So, yeah, man, they run the sight lap with the sportsman, and there was at least 70 cars
Oh,
side by
wow.
sides. Yeah, I know it was crazy. You had everybody from racers that didn't want to run in the pro class to guys with numbers on dinner plates taped to
Yeah,
the side of
literally
their
pie
car.
plating it.
Literally pie plating it. Yep, yep. Uh, so and funny story about one of the pipe platers, and I don't know his name, so this is probably good, but this will crack you up. Um, he wadded up in the heat. It was his 4-seat family truckster,
Lovely.
and he wadded up in the heat. And our ops team ran down to get him turned over and get him towed out. And he was like, let's just wait till after all the heats because my wife is really pissed right now.
You want to be hardcore, you got to live hardcore.
Yeah, and let that be a lesson. If you're racing the family truckster, don't give your wife a radio.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, at least you're using the cars what they're built for.
Amen. Right? You're testing your skill. Um, he didn't. He obviously ran out or drove over his skill level, but it was pretty funny story nonetheless. Cracked me up for sure. So, yeah, man, and they just got it on. I mean, they got sight lap done. They got them lined up. I think they lined them up in rows of 16,
Okay.
and I do not remember the gap on the waves, but there wasn't much. It was very close, like wave after wave after wave. So they ran several heat races, qualifiers, and they took the top 8 from each qualifier. And then they took, I think, the top 4 from the LCQs, which they ran in the afternoon. So you got to see a lot of racing, sportsman racing, a lot of pro racing. Um, it was pretty rad. I mean, I didn't get to see a whole bunch of it
Right,
because,
right.
I had work to do, obviously, with crowd control and people were starting to file in. And, Red Bull had their whole VIP area set up. Um, so I had guards at both entrances to that. And of course, the media and staff catering area. Um, you know, I had a guard there, and then guards all over all over the track, all over the compound, if you will, base camp.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yep.
just keeping an eye out, making sure, of course, guards at the front gate, making sure people weren't pulling in and parking. Um, so it was super rad, man. And they got through all that. We had a little break um, where we were able to get some lunch. Um, and started getting ready for the afternoon and for the LCQs. So they ran both LCQs and then immediately ran they ran Sportsman LCQ, Pro LCQ, and then basically immediately ran the Sportsman main and then the Pro main. So um, I was tasked with uh, if you will, kind of protecting, coordinating the podium area, um, which, makes sense. You're not supposed to have any vehicles driving in there or anything. Um, and they kind of left it up to me as to how I wanted to get things set up. And so they already had obviously had the big podium set up with the stands and everything. And I knew we had the Red Bull activation vehicle, that really cool wedgie looking Star Wars looking machine.
Urban assault vehicle looking thing.
Yeah, coming up for the DJ and all that, and the announcer. So I knew that they would be bringing that up. So as the sportsman final ended, I was able to coordinate with the guards and shout out to Jason from USAC and Race Ops. He got me the numbers we needed to call into the area that we had allowed for vehicles and podium celebration and all that. So it was pretty cool to pull those guys in and basically like be one of the first guys to congratulate them and then tell them get back in their cars and get them parked where I wanted them.
Yeah.
Um, and then, there's a little bit of time and then the pros went. So what we did is we brought the top three from Sportsman in um, and then reclosed the back gate, if you will, the sand side entrance, um, just so we didn't get loaded up with side by sides to where when the pros came in, we couldn't get them through. Um, and just let everybody know, hey, if you want to pull in here after we get the top three pros in, it will be open. There's only so much room in there, and we still had to keep, of course, our both ways and a turnaround available for ambulance, fire, emergency vehicles, et cetera, like that. And that was per BLM and the sheriff. So, we want to definitely follow those guys' rules because they're the host of the party, really. I mean, BLM is the host of the party. And man, it was cool that they allowed us come back again. And by the time they left, they're already talking about next year. So
Nice. That's the best.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about that and think that'll be good. But yeah, so I got the sportsman in, and it's funny because the guy that finished third in the sportsman class, and you got to figure there was over 70 sportsmen. The guy that finished third, naturally aspirated RS1, it had a cage. It was a race car, but it was a RS1 race car. So, single seat, naturally aspirated. There's so many cars that he's making like what, a 125, maybe 125
Yeah,
horse.
maybe.
And there's like 90% of the field was making over 190, right? So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Obviously, I didn't catch the guy's name. I did catch his name, but I honestly don't remember it. Um, but he did a heck of a job to hang in there, and finish, let alone finish on the podium. So,
Yeah, it's talk about showing how it's driver skill more than anything is at quite a disadvantage to be able to
yeah,
put their own in the box like that.
yep, for sure. And keep in mind, all these guys running the sand on knobbies. You're not
That's
allowed to
that's a
run
rule, right?
paddles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a rule. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I was kind of thinking about that and I'm like, who's getting creative with how they're cutting their lug patterns and everything. You know,
it's funny you said that because I was looking at someone's picture um, today on social media of their car and stuff. And I'm like, now that's an interesting cut. But if I could get my head together with Cole, you know, I have a pretty good idea what we do. So I was thinking about you and cutting tires, um, you know, and interesting ways to make it work.
oh
Um,
yeah, every tire is different, but I would like to get in there next year and give somebody the clear advantage.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, and but going back to like my crew chief days and my crew chief days with the go kart, um, realistic. I mean, obviously, you want to be able to use scuffs. You want to be able to whatever use tires, but realistically, a set of tires only needs to last to the checkered flag.
Yeah, cut the heck out of those things.
Yeah, like when push comes to shove, dude, eh, they only got to last till the checkered flag falls, right? So we ran a go kart race in Canby, Oregon, and we were based out of Spanaway, Washington. And it was raining, and we'd gone down there every weekend for 4 or 5 weekends and taken the top spot. And it was oh no, this was a Spanaway race where we've been just killing, and it started raining. Uh, we were probably one of the better financially backed teams. And so, I mean, realistically, I have 4 different sets of tires on wheels, um, different compounds, different brands. Um, so as soon as it started raining, no brainer, right? You put on your Dunlop, super sticky Dunlop rain tires. Well, they came back, officials came back and said, you can't run rain tires because not everybody has them.
Lame.
And it's like the track's not that wet. You all have to run slicks. Well, the track was wet.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
just dangerous.
there wasn't puddles, but it was wet.
Yeah, not dry.
So me being who I am, and having the attitude that I do, and being the crew chief and creativity monster that I can be, I took an old set of super sticky Dunlop slicks and siped them with a razor knife to the point where they were almost leaking. And, fortunately, they were like, whoa. I said, that's a slick.
10 minutes ago, it was a slick.
You told me we had to run slicks. What's it say? This is a regulation slick. And so, and we won that race. But the sun did come out about lap 4.5 of 9. And by lap 9, the tires were fortunately had a big lead because the tires were literally coming apart to the point where chunks were sticking to his visor on his helmet off the fronts. But we finished, they held air and we won. So, go ahead and push me. We'll figure something out. Going back to where I was, man, that was a big side jump. Sorry about that.
No, it's good stuff.
But going back to where we were, I mean, these guys, yeah. So kid finished third on Nobbies in a RS1.
Yeah.
He could obviously drive.
Kudos award.
Yeah, to me, he gets the sportsman hard charger award, right?
True grit, hard charger.
Yep. So then they throw the green on the pro race. The waves start out, and of course it's like carnage right off the get go. Those guys are crazy. They guy overdrove into 3, and I should go into the course layout before we get to this. So if you've ever been out there, Osborne, look out. Right in front of Osborne was the finish line, the dual finish pylons. Comp Hill, which as you're in Osborne looking off to your left is Comp Hill, is where the bottom of comp is where they started.
Gotcha.
So they went up comp and had to make a right while they're going up comp to go around, to go left around pylon one, to come back over the lip, if you will, over the hump by the corner of Osborne around pylon two, and then drop into a little flat area. And it was a drop, like all caps drop, into the flat at the finish. They had to run through the finish pylons every lap. And then they dropped off at the end of what I would call the finish straight or the main straight. They dropped down into a bowl where three was and had to make a left around three. And then straight up to four, and then right up to Sunset to five. And then at five, so they made a right around four, which was out in the dunes. You couldn't see it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And then up to Sunset, and a left around Sunset, and then back down around, what would that be? I think six was right on the next dune over from Osborne, and then back out to seven, which was way out by
Like
cut it easy.
Oldsmobile.
Yes, thank you.
Was I right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, way out by Olds. And then they had to come back and go up to a really peaky dune and make a left around it and come back down around pylon nine. I believe it was a right around nine, which was at the start or right before the start, and then back. I guess it'd be a left around nine and then back up comp. So right off the get go, first wave of the pros, one of the guys in the first wave overcooks it down into the bowl in three and ends up upside down. So there's, literally like, caution, the whole bit, but each caution is a regional caution. They do not have a full course caution because there's so many lines, right?
Yeah. It's avoidable.
Yeah. So my buddy Seth was in row two, and which would have been the second 16, the wave of the second 16. And I see him making a pass on like four cars on the outside, with basically splitting about six cars wide. So I think he's passing three cars that are on the inside to the outside. And I'm like, literally, I'm yelling, look out, look out, look out. Kid's got great reactions, man. I saw a huge spray of dirt, sand off his right front as he had made the pass and he just shut the freaking door and a tap of the brakes and hard right, hard on the throttle, shut the door and avoided it. And Mia Chapman was directly behind that, but she was running the inside and so got through clean. But my heart was beating about 900 beats a minute at that point,
Yeah, you don't want him coming over the crest and just
Yeah,
putting the guy
yeah.
in the door or whatever.
And you could see it. But at speed in the sand with 16 other cars, obviously there's a few distractions, but fortunately they were able to get that car right and get the situation out of the way. But yeah, man, that was pretty intense start to the race. And Seth came by at the end of lap two and was already up to third place. And I think either midway through lap three, somehow punctured a tire. So
How do you do that?
I think it was probably, I don't know, but I would guess maybe contact.
Yeah, contact or too low, just enough low pressure to peel the bead back, or
Yeah. Yeah.
Caught the one beer can out there or something.
Yep. Something like that. So that put him out. Um, but it was an exciting race, and I missed the finish. Um, I've yet to see it even, but I heard it was insanely good. Um, and so obviously race, I was kind of busy over getting ready to coordinate things, and so it was really cool because as they finish, all the cars are coming around to the backside and we're stacking them up, and I'm calling, of course the leader was the easy one, right? But there's also lap cars coming around, so um, Jason from USAC gets me the numbers, and we get the top three in. We're holding everybody else there. Like, don't leave. Just give us a minute. Get these guys placed. And those guys, we pull them in, and what's the first thing they do? It's geez, should have done my research, dude. Um, I know Corbin Leverton won. Um,
Talking about the pro class.
yeah, and let me see. Anyways, we got all those guys in, and what's funny is that Corbin and the guy who finished second were very good friends, basically teammates. I want to say Colby, but I don't know that for a fact, so I'm just not gonna say it. Um, so anyway, the they come in and instantly, of course, they want to jump out of the car and BS and everything else, and I'm like, I let them. I was to an extent nice and let them, congratulate each other and BS for a sec, and then I'm like, all right, get back in your cars. We got to get you parked over here. We got a show to put on.
Kick rocks, yeah.
Yeah. So I said,
Oh, sorry to cut you off. Side by side pro class. Corbin Leverton in P1,
yep,
Cody Bradbury P2, Kevin McCullough in P3. And then our sportsman class here, we got Billy Slade, Zach Frausto, and Jackson Steele.
Jackson Steele put in the drive of the day, I think. But although I haven't not seen the finish between Corbin and Cody, so um, it's funny because uh, one of the racers that I used to work with, Shelby Anderson of the Anderson family, um, is now Shelby Anderson Leverton. So you know, that's a heck of a. They just got married not too long ago,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's a heck of a way to start with winning the granddaddy of the scrambles. Um, but it was pretty cool. But anyways, got those guys back in their cars and got them parked, and it was really really a special moment for me, and I am super grateful. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like a badass parking the one, two, and three, lining them out. I'm sure there's a lot of media that's probably not super happy with me because they were on like flies on an old apple in humid weather. And I'm like, hey, out of the way, get
Yeah,
back, get back.
move.
We're coming through. Get your pictures in a minute. Get out of my way, stuff like that. Um, and really just kind of getting them out of the way, keeping a safe situation while I got cars parked. And it was cool. Um, those guys were really gracious because, I can be intense, and I'm like, no, you don't look back, pay attention to me. And as soon as I said that, they're on it, and they're paying. These guys are like focused on me, and I was guiding them back, with hand signals and telling them when to stop and everything. And it was a badass moment for me. It's something I will never forget because I've I felt really cool getting these guys being able to have the opportunity to deal with it. It's like the top three to me, like the top three at Indy or Daytona, when it comes to the scrambles. Glamis Sand Scramble is the granddaddy of the scrambles, right?
I mean, I think it's the only one, but yeah, it's the granddaddy.
No, they had like 4 or 5 this year.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, yeah,
Whoops.
yeah. So
I
got
should
you.
start follow racing. That way I know this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the anyways, yeah, no, it was just really cool for me to be able to get those guys parked and of course, as soon as I forgot this part, as soon as they dropped the green flag on the pro class, the Red Bull activation vehicle had to boogie it out through the sand, out to the road, up in the parking lot. So I'm on the radio, I'm on listening to race ops and what's going on there, and listening to my ops team, and also on the radio with security, reminding them that as soon as that vehicle gets there, usher them immediately to the what I called the back gate, the back lot.
Yeah.
So, just reminding them, don't hold these guys up, don't don't slow him down for a second. We're on a time frame.
Yeah.
I need to make sure he's parked where he needs to be parked to before the race is over. So, but it all worked out. And I felt like a badass getting those guys parked. And I'm sure there's a lot of media that has a lot of pictures of my butt because I just kept moving.
Yeah, but that's not the time to be taking photos, you know?
Well, you want some of that, but hopefully they got my good side, not just my butt. Hopefully they got my stash. Um, but
You're
yeah,
going,
man,
look at me. I'm the captain. I'll park you.
yeah, that was it. That was it. And I got them all parked, and those guys were very gracious. Um, and I was thankful to be able to basically be the first guy to congratulate them. It was a real honor. Um, it was wild fact. The sportsmen 1, 2, 3 were all Polaris products. The pro 1, 2, 3 were all Can-Am products.
How weird.
So how's that for an even spread?
Well, it looks
Uh,
good for both companies.
yeah, absolutely.
If it's like you want to
Absolutely.
be serious, Can-Am. If you want to have your family car, Polaris.
Yeah, something like that.
Uh,
Um, I endorse neither.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Not they don't pay nothing on this show.
yeah, no, I'm just grateful that that we did have some kind of spread and that the racing was just off the hook exciting. Um, dude, it was just great. And it was really awesome. Once I got everybody parked and had all 6 podium finishers up there, and the DJ was going in the activation vehicle, and media's going nuts, and film crews and the fans are packed in, and race cars are packed in, and I could just kind of walk back and just look at it all and like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is awesome, for a couple of minutes. And then it was like, okay, we got to get. Ops team was already, as soon as the checkered flag flew, the ops team was on, starting to break down podiums, get them packed up, get Jenny's packed up, get delineators packed up, um, which just to give you a rough idea, and a lot of people won't know because they haven't been up on Osborne. Um, but I'm sure you can Google view it, like real view or whatever, satellite view on
Yeah.
Google, and this will give you an idea. Um, Friday night, after they had all the delineators set up, uh, we took Mario's giant, rigid work light. It's a big, massive work light, right? And we just scanned the dunes, like literally from left to right. And you could pretty much follow the entire boundary of the course. Um, one, that work light, which apparently Rigid doesn't make anymore, is sick. Two, all those delineators, the anorexic extra tall cones, were basically brand new. So they have brand new reflective on them. So you could actually see the reflective all the way out to where you couldn't see them, like for olds, and all the way up around the pylon up on Sunset. Um, it's just sick. But anyways, the ops team just crushed it, man. They went to work like nobody's business. Holy cow, they were hauling stuff in, packing stuff down. Um, and at that point, I wanted to be there in with them, but I had my own fish to fry with traffic control
Yeah.
and foot traffic, foot traffic control at Red Bull VIP for the ensuing party there, and just dealing with all that and making sure that everybody was safe at the podium. And then when they got done partying, for the most part, when some of the racers started to pull their cars out and stuff, we had to be there and make sure we got clean passage out and nobody got hurt or anything like that. So all in all, man, it was just insanely good, super rad. um, Daddy's Fine Foods catered our dinner Saturday, post race dinner.
Sick.
Yeah, and we had pasta. Um, so good. I ate two giant plates of pasta, dude. I got me a full belly, and probably six pieces of roasted garlic bread. Uh,
Nice.
I bypassed the salad. I'm not gonna lie.
I can eat
Um,
rabbit food out in the dunes.
I went for it. I packed up some of the extra bread and some pasta with a little bit of sauce, and put it in a little container and put it in the fridge in my trailer for right before I went to bed, so I could finish that carb load. So basically, when I went to bed, I would be fat, dumb, and happy.
Got
Um,
some good garlic breath mouth going on.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the whole thing, like I got to bed. I think I put myself to bed. The crew went down for Red Bull. They got all done. We had dinner, and then they went down to the flats, um, to the Red Bull camp down there for the Red Bull uh, after party, I guess you'd call it. Um, and I'm not that I wanted to go, but I'm also, I've got a boneyard full of stuff that just came out of the dunes, and I was back down to five guards. So I felt it was, you know,
Responsibility.
much responsibilities. Yeah, no, I felt it was like just the right thing. Be there,
Yeah.
be eyes on, and you never know. You get stragglers coming up that want to come up. Oh, I just want to drive in and go hang out at Red Bull or whatever. It's like, well, go down to the flats. That's where the party is. So, yeah, man, I just hung out and got everything kind of lined out, and the guards all settled, and was real happy with everything. And I went to bed at, you will not believe this, it was before 10 p.m.
Wow. That
Nine,
pasta put you to bed.
yeah, I put myself to bed at 9:51 p.m. Um, that being said, I'd had roughly an hour and 45 minutes since 6 o'clock Friday morning. So, I slept, dude. You know me and my sleeping habits. I slept 4 hours like someone hit me in the head with a 2x4.
Yeah, you were just out.
Yeah, I turned the furnace up in the trailer.
Nice.
Put a towel on the floor in case I had to get up and go pee in the middle of the night, so my feet didn't get cold. Yeah, man, I was dialed. I had it nice and warm in there. Uh, um, had my Glamis bag, my famous orange mummy bag.
Yep.
That's my Glamis camp bag. Um, yeah, man, I was OWT oat.
Yeah, good. Well, fulfilling weekend.
Yeah, it really was. Got up, woke up, was up for a little bit, went back, crashed out for about 3 more hours, I think. Got up in the
Wow.
morning and it's like, okay, it's Sunday, it's pack out day. So, the team had like a 8:30 call, but I think me and Butts by 7:30 were pulling in bike fence and starting to get some of the scrim down, so we were able to get hour and a half jump start, help the ops team out, and save them some time. And once we got wrapped, man, I moved got my truck and trailer and moved everything from my rental trailer, which security headquarters and my house up there on Osborne, moved everything into my trailer and just started booking it for home, got home and yeah, I had a great time. But man, what a successful event. The amount of fans has grown immensely. I mean, there was more side by sides, rails, and everything you can imagine that people drive in the sand, lining every part of the race course than you could count.
I mean, that's the best you could ask for.
Yeah, and the Red Bull VIP area was packed, and the fan area that we set up, the fan viewing area right in front of the Red Bull VIP area, was just absolutely stacked. Um, Dude, it was just so cool. Oh, and really, really touching moment going back to my kids, um, Quintero and Chapman. Um, I was walking after the podium party, kind of. I was walking along the road, um, or our traffic lanes, if you will, and Seth and Mia were standing there talking, and I'm like, they were talking to a media person. As soon as the media person got done, I'm like, all right, you guys, I got to get a picture of you two together. And Seth was like, no. I'm like, what? And he goes, you got to have somebody take a picture of us three together.
Oh,
And dude, you can almost see the tears in my eyes. I felt so touched and so grateful. Um, you know, I mean, he's still, his mom jokes that when he started, he was a nobody, and he's still a nobody
yeah,
with a
in
bunch
the
of
best of
trophies,
ways.
you know,
Yeah,
and he really is just super humble and gracious. And also, he's agreed to be on along for the ride at some point,
that'll be a
which
fun
is
episode.
that will be a fun episode. Um, but I was really touched, that of course it wasn't hard to find somebody that wanted to take a whole bunch of pictures of us with my phone, um, and their camera and the video camera and whatever, but it was really cool, really touched my heart. So yeah, what an epic event. I mean, the fans, the racers, way more racers than last year. um, and I have no idea what the final count was. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 150 or more.
Wow.
um, it was nuts. It was just not. It's so exciting. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, you see him come out of like pylon 4 and head up to sunset at pylon 5, dude. And they're like, was that 4 or 5 or 3? Yeah. And dude, there's people running the inside of the bowl on sunset. There's people running the outside of the ridge on. You have 15 cars spread, all 15 side by sides spread all across this dune. And it's like, who's going to get there first, And
Yeah, all taking different lines, and
yeah, all over
nobody
the
knows what the advantage is. And
right. And it's not just, somebody taking a chance on a wing and a prayer. That's it. Every section.
right, yeah, there is no line.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no course, no track, no set track. And I mean, there is obviously there's boundaries, but I mean, in pylons you have to go around, but the width of the boundary is hundreds of feet.
It's like offshore boat racing in 100-foot waves.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just so gnarly. And Mother G did not disappoint in preparation for this. They'd had some wind and stuff. Um, and even though the pylons were in pretty much the same spot as last year, the course was completely different.
Yeah. So yeah, geographically their corners are the same, but the course is totally different.
Yeah. And it was they hadn't had a lot of high wind. Um, they'd had some low winds, consistent low winds. So it was very lippy,
Oh, okay.
but it
That makes it
wasn't,
exciting.
yeah, it wasn't like big razorbacks. It was just like a little like blow over lip, which, I mean, I caught one of those one time at St. Anthony's and it broke away on me. I was on the quad filming
That's so scary.
oh dude, turned me. I was in a right hand bowl and I was trying to get a good shot, good feed, good video of a razor that was high marking and I was up above him kind of shooting down towards him, like off his left rear. And all of a sudden, the quad just turned left, and I launched probably 60 feet down the hill. Um, Fortunately, it was a nice, smooth fall off. So, like, there was no panic rev. Well, there was panic rev for sure because
There
that
was no
thing,
panic rev. Well, there was panic rev.
there was definitely panic rev. Um, but there wasn't panic.
Okay.
There was intentional panic rev, but it was a smooth enough fall off. Thank God, because St. Anthony's, you never know, right?
Yeah.
You could go straight down into a lava pit.
You could still be
Um,
falling to this day.
yeah. So, yeah, but if you break away a lip like that, it's just blow over lip, dude. Yeah, it's gnarly. So they had to be really careful of where they were running, how they were running over it. Um, it's just such a uniquely cool event that obviously you can hear it in my voice. I'm super excited about it. And hopefully I'll get the invite to go back next year um, and just keep on doing what I'm doing. Uh, it sounds like Red Bull Sand Scramble is going to become a national series
Wow, that would be
for
crazy.
2023 and add several more races.
That'd be wild. So you'd have like Oklahoma, Idaho, maybe an Oregon round, something like that.
Yeah, they already do like they do one in I think Tennessee, um, in the mountains. They or in the hills. They do one somewhere in the mountains at a ski resort. Um, they do one in like January in Wisconsin or Minnesota, way up north. Um, where apparently last year they had several days like minus teens to minus 20s, um, which I sounds like super cool time, except for it's cold.
Yeah, it sounds like
Um,
a super cold time.
yeah, that too. Um, and they did one this year at Sand Mountain, Utah.
Gotcha.
I think it was Sand Mountain or was it Sand Hollow? No, I think it was Sand Mountain. It adding more races. I don't know exactly where they're going. But it's going to be really, really exciting, and um, onto some of that kind of stuff. Looking towards Dakar, um, you may have noticed today there's quite the series of press releases where my boy Seth Quintero has moved to the Red Bull uh, Red Bull Off-Road Can-Am Factory Racing Team.
Yeah, it's Southern Can-Am Racing, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's now
that was a
called,
big headline this morning in the motorsports world.
yes. Yeah, it's and that's a huge deal. Um, which means he'll be stepping out of the SSV special class into the, I believe it's SSV 3 or something like that. You would know better than
The
me.
more production looking cars.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, so I hope that they are able to provide him with a worthy platform of his talent for this race. Um, and it's crazy to think that he's stepping out of that OT3 with
yeah.
the success that he had last year, and the year before, really. Also, Mitch Guthrie Jr. Has announced he's staying with the Red Bull Off-Road Junior team and will be driving the MCE5M,
Good
which
memory.
is which is a new um, car a new side by side that will be in a side by side hybrid class. And I know Mitchie has been. Don't ask me how I know. I know Mitchie has been working on R&D with that and a lot of testing. That's actually why he wasn't. He was out testing in the Middle East.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yes, we got just a few days left here to Dakar. Okay.
Yeah, and he was obviously last year's Sand Scramble winner. Uh, so, you know, um, yeah, so some big stuff happening in motorsports as far as that goes. Um, it's a real big move for Seth and the Quintero Racing family. I can't tell you how proud I am of him. Um, to be where he's at and have the opportunities that he has. He's earned them. I can tell you there may be haters out there, but that kid worked his butt off and continues to work his butt off and has earned it. And if you want to hate on Seth Q, man, you look me up. I'll tune you up quick.
Amen.
So I think with that, man, what do you got? Get me onto your race.
It was an awesome 2 weekends back to back. I went to the Moore race out in Barstow with my good buddy Ron Bronco. So we rode two up in my Ranger. Um, had an awesome time. Got there about 7 in the morning. Uh, didn't really focus a whole lot on photography just because we were more spectators than anything that weekend. Just to get out there, just to go kick it, go hit some whip sections, just go be menaces, have a good time. But I did still take quite a lot of photos, considering I didn't take photos, if that makes sense.
You got some good stuff too, by the
Yeah,
way.
thank you. Yeah, it was lingering dust and a really high sun, which makes for horrible photos. Um, but but no, it was a great time, and we logged about 80 dirt miles between all the fire roads and different spots we looked at. Um, Killer weekend. And so then fast forwarding to this past weekend, it was the last race for AMA District 38 desert racing. And I had a comedy show to go to the night before. So I got home about midnight and I had to leave by 3 a.m. Well, luckily, I might have had one or too many 2 IPAs. So I slept horribly and felt horrible. So when the alarm went off at 2:45, I was already well up. So that worked out great. Um, but yeah, so I got in the truck at 3 a.m. on the dot and headed to, or not Plaster City, headed to Superstition. And I got there right about 6 a.m. And it took me an extra half hour just to find where those guys had pitted. I went up and down pit road. I'm going through everybody's camp, looking all creepy at 6 o'clock in the morning, trying not to blind people. I mean, it took me, no joke, it took me 3 hours to get there and 30 minutes just to find where they were camped. Anyway, so they even made the joke when I got there. They go, every time we camp and then you make us go move somewhere else. And it's like, well, yeah, because the pits are over there and that's where we need to be. So let's just park over at the pits. But
Makes sense.
it makes sense to me, but I'm not the racer, so I got to make sure my guys are comfortable. But they called this one a Euro Scramble. They're not my favorite. They're kind of short. They're only an hour, so it's more of a Grand Prix in the desert as
Right.
opposed to a big 2 or 3 loop desert race. So Jake's first race, he had bomb practice at 7:30, and then his race was from 8 to 9. So basically from 6:30, got there, he got geared up, got the bike ready. He got to practice the bomb maybe twice, and then it was go time after that. So his dad and I set up a remote pit out there on pit road. And it was so crazy because speaking of lingering dust, it was like it followed me weekend to weekend because there was, Glamis is obviously breezy, but right there
Right.
in Superstition, I mean, there was a half a mile an hour of wind. So you got hundreds of guys going down the bomb run and then coming through the pits on the first lap. And it was like fog, but it's dust. I mean, to the point where guys are fifth gear pinned and you'd see them stand up and check up because they'd go, well, I can't see anything, And obviously those bikes, they don't run lights, nobody runs ambers or anything on their Camelback. So it's kind of the Wild West. But Jake actually got in a pack of 3 guys on the first lap, and the first guy stopped. And then Jake and the other guy looked around and they realized that they weren't even on the race course anymore. So talk about Dakar navigation problems. But
Right.
so he lost about 2 minutes there. He put in a great rest of his ride. So he ended up 3rd in class, which is great. It's great to be podium. But Jake has been doing so well lately that I was almost disappointing a little bit. I was like, man, you've been killing it. 3rd? Like 3rd sucks. But very proud of him, especially for getting lost and not having a lot of bomb practice and everything. But it was so funny because he got 3rd in class, but out of 70 guys, he got 25th overall. And so
Wow.
that's from the last line. And also, the 2 guys that beat him in 250 novice were 22, 23 overall, an amateur, and then Jake. So those 3 guys were just ripping. I mean, call it cherry picking or whatever, but yeah, to come from the 3rd line and pull, low 20s overall, that's incredible. So we had a lot of time to kill between that and the team race. And I was glad that I convinced, but I'm glad I put the idea out there to do the team race because selfishly, I'm like, well, I'll do it, but I don't really want to drive out 3 hours each way just to go watch an hour racing, Like,
Right.
I'll find my own fun, but these team races are awesome because there's no pressure and you switch off every lap. So we had time to kill between the 2 races. So we took the Ranger out, and a friend of his was out there in this badass 84 Toyota that had Ford I-beams on it, and it was all long traveled out, and it looked like the Pizza Planet Toy Story truck. This thing was sweet. Well, it turns out after kicking it with this guy all day, it's Ryan Sheckler's Red Bull skateboarder's little brother, Kane. So it was like, oh, cool. And so I don't know. I always respect people that are humble like that. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember watching you on MTV for like 3 years when you guys had your show, and just the fact that somebody else had to tell me who you are, that's a good big deal to me,
Yep.
But yeah, so then it was the team race time. Jake was the only one to do the morning race, and then his buddy Nate and then his 2 other bros were going to all do the team race together. So we had two teams for the team race, and those guys were kicking back. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have fun in the desert. They're having a couple beers and eating the greasiest breakfast tacos I've ever seen in my life. They were making on the Blackstone Grill. And it's like, that's not what I would do, but it's also like, you're paying to be here, so you have fun, But Jake and Nate were on a team, and those guys pulled off 2nd in their class, which was super impressive, especially because Nate had never done a desert race before. And those guys' times were like, within a minute of each other. So I had my phone doing the times for Jake and Nate, and then I had my old phone doing the times for these kids, Tanner and Joey. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like pit boss nightmare, right? Because I'm like, all right, you have 2 minutes before you got to get back on the bike. Like, are your goggles clean? Which bike do we need to fuel? I gave everybody jobs, but it was just so fun because there's all these dudes that I didn't know there and some family members and stuff. And one of the dads comes up to me and he goes, how's Joey doing on time? Joey's doing great. He knows what to do. So it was just so fun. And so Jake and Nate get done with the team race and everybody's having some beers and kicking back and laughing and enjoying. And then it's like, I don't know, it's been probably 10 or 15 minutes and it's like, oh, wait, Tanner hasn't finished yet. Like, we should probably wait until he comes in and then we'll have our little brouhaha.
Oh,
But no, it was all good. So yeah, those guys, considering that 3 of the 4 of them had never done any kind of desert racing, and a team race is such a badass way to get someone introduced because you only do a lap at a time and it's no pressure and everybody just kind of takes it for what it's worth. So dude, it just absolutely fired everybody up to go racing next year. And so, not to make this too sappy, but I was telling my wife, I'm like, the fact that these 4 guys, and they're quite a bit younger than me. I mean, they're probably 8 to 10 years younger than I am. The fact that they're so fired up to go racing now and want to keep doing it. And I'm like, that's everything. That's why I want to go, is like, if I can pit for you and you have a good experience, and even if you don't, if you have a adventurous experience, like the fact that you want to come back and you might bring a friend, like that's just ultimate gratification. So that was P3 and a P2. We'll take it. We're coming out strong next year in January.
wow, that's super, super awesome on the finishes. And man, it's I just love to see your smile and hear the excitement in your voice when you're talking about this stuff. And dude, I hope you keep doing it and keep getting deeper and deeper into it, because you're definitely an asset for those guys, and they need somebody like you. And I totally understand the time clock thing. And one other comment on that: respect to the dad who didn't get in your lane.
Yeah, he was not a classic motocross dad. He was a desert race dad, and it's very different.
Yeah. Well, and as a former crew chief for a lot of different things, and a former racer, you, like, as a crew chief, don't mess with me. I'm in my zone. I've got my things going. I don't need you to understand what I'm doing. You just let me
I
do
have
what
a
I do.
system.
Yeah. I'll get done what I need to do. And by the grace of God and with a little luck, the results will show it, you know?
Yep.
So total respect for that, Dab, for not getting on you.
Absolutely. Yep.
And massive respect for you as a rookie crew chief to pull the finishes you've pulled this year, and really orchestrate the finishes, and work with the riders and coach the riders to get them up to where they're able to pull these finishes.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
and I don't know, it just motivates them to come back, right? Which helps me. So
absolutely. And the things that you've adapted to on the crew chief side, the bike chief side, running 4 stopwatches, for instance, or 4 timers, dude, yeah, it's good job.
I don't
I'm,
know. I love it. It's fun.
I'm
Thank
proud
you.
of you,
Thank
and
you. Thank you.
I'm happy for you. I'm really happy for you. Um, yeah, man. And it's funny, you were talking about, you know, um, people that are just chill and all that. And um, we have Fast Track Racing is an American flat track team. They have some announcements coming, but they're based um, out of Lake Havasu. So I've been
Awesome.
over there a couple times to see those guys. They're awesome dudes. Basically a new team this year. They're involved with the latest latest Harley Davidson team last few years. Um, they've got a good rider. I'll let them take care of all that.
Yep.
Not
Don't need to get yourself in trouble.
no names, no brands, no nothing. All I'm saying is they're really good guys. I really like them. Um, and we all got together for dinner over at the casino the other night before I headed out. Right, must have been, I don't know what night it was before I headed out. Anyways, and we're there and we all met in the bar, and I walk up and I see everybody, and of course it's hugs all around, and I get to meet their wives, and I had the Viking with me. I'm introducing the Viking, and one of the guys is like, and Kenny, and Kenny, it's really nice to meet you. Um,
You know Kenny.
and I introduced my wife. This is Karina, Kenny, and he introduced his wife, and so anyways, long story short, after it's all done, after dinner and all that, we hung out and just had a good time. Probably, I don't know, you saw the picture on social media.
Yeah,
What
it was a
was
nice
there?
photo of everybody. Yeah.
4, 6, 8, 10 of us, I guess,
Yep.
just hanging out, having dinner, having a good time. And I'm very grateful to uh, Arnie Wick, who's you will be a fan. Google him and flat track racing, um, the history, man. But anyways, after all that, I'm like, I told Karina when we were heading back to the house, I'm like, so I'm 95% sure that was the Kenny Roberts. And of course, Karina's like deer in the headlights too. I'm like, King Kenny. And she's like, really? So instantly, what does she do? She doesn't ask me, right? She just goes straight to Google. She's like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And she's like, holy cow. Um, so yeah, man, that was super rad to be able to, like, just normal dude, right? I mean,
Just humble and hanging out with everybody.
yep,
And
yep, just humble, hanging out and dropping his $20 in the slots, just like the rest of us. Um, so that was super rad. And
how crazy.
I want to thank Arnie and Matt and the Fast Track 11 team, um, for their hospitality, and I will probably go over to the race shop and just see how they're doing, because Matt's their bike chief, and we were actually when I was uh, we're actually talking about just some bike things, and it gave me the itch to think.
Okay.
So it was really cool.
That's
But
cool.
anyways, yeah, that being said, man, I am so proud of you. You've jumped not only back in to where you belong in the motorsports industry as a whole, um, but you've jumped into a commanding position with good results. And so,
Thank you.
that's a sure sign that you're doing a great job. And I'm really proud of you, boy.
Thank you. It's I don't know. It's, when you're a racer, you look forward to Saturday, Sunday all week to go racing. So now it's the same thing, but just without the pressure.
Well, yeah, and the fact that you're bringing your photography into that with the Premix podcast and all that, dude, that's just super cool. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
you bet. I know we're pushing up on Christmas, but we are gonna get some more episodes in before Christmas. That being said, for tonight, um, we are done. I want to be sure and thank Kicker Performance Audio, kicker.com. Look them up. Anything you need for your car, boat, RV, motorcycle, Harley, off road vehicle, golf cart, or personal audio, headphones, earbuds. Um, man, kicker.com, Kicker Performance Audio. Just the best of the best of the best for sure, and great people and great all American story behind it. Of course, Bomber Floating Eyewear, bombereyewear.com. Hit their website, check out everything they have. I love the thought process that their owner, Tommy the Bomber, has, and that is he wants to be the Levi's of sunglasses, the kind everybody wears to be comfortable, and he's really achieved that. He has some fantastic styles, lots of options, everything from smoke clear to amber to mirrored. I mean, I couldn't even go into it all. I'm grateful to have them along for the ride. That is Bomber Floating Eyewear, and you will find them at bombereyewear.com. Of course, the Premix podcast, uh, doing all our production, all our sound work. Cole, slaying it. I'm so grateful to have you along for the ride. And you will soon begin to see us on our YouTube channel, which we will tell you what it is as soon as we make the final decision where we're going to send it. And all our videos are now being produced. All of our episodes, I should say, are being produced and mastered by none other than Kelsey Morrell Film. Find her on Instagram at Kelsey Morrell Film, KelseyMorrell Film on Instagram. You got anything for anybody, Cole?
No, just
I think
excited to get the holidays going here, and I'm glad to be along for the ride. And I'm glad we were able to record tonight. Had a good time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're kind of back up over that hump and not feeling good. I wish you feel better, even better soon. And I think it's only fitting we close this show out with a dedication to my boy Greg, Big Red Cowboy Hat Cozzo, Greg Smilemaker. Man, let's keep dropping smiles like raindrops. Let's hashtag be the example, hashtag be the smile, hashtag be the positive. Much love, Greg. Mad Dog out.